Hey everyone, I'm Michael, and welcome to another socially distant development update. I've been making these a lot lately, but that's okay, because I always have something new to talk about in these dev updates. What I want to show you guys this time around is some more window management stuff. And my previous dev update was talking about window management in the game, and how we were thinking about whether we were going to go for a floating or a tiling window manager in the game. And I opened the discussion up to you guys. I set up a Twitter poll where I basically said, okay, here's this dev update I made where I talk about window management and fitting content into windows and having windows communicate with each other inside socially distant. And I said, alright, which do you guys prefer, floating or tiling? Many of you guys have, well, really nobody talked about the window management, which I sort of expected because it's not really that big of a deal to the end user. You don't really talk about your window manager very often unless you're like a Linux neckbeard and you're making a tiling window manager. So I get why there wasn't much discussion, but there was still people voting on the poll, and the overwhelming majority voted for floating window manager. So much so that nobody voted for the tiling window manager, which was really interesting to me. It kind of told me that nobody really cares about that Linux hacker aesthetic. They kind of just want Windows in the game to work. And to be honest, I agree with you. So once that poll closed, I started work on revamping the entire game's desktop environment to use a floating window manager. And in this dev update, I'm going to show you guys what that all looks like, and talk about some of the issues and challenges I faced while doing so. So first thing you'll notice is when we open it up, we just have our wallpaper. We have our status bar at the top, but that's really the only similarity between this and the old interface. The old interface is still in the game, but I did break it, so it might... Actually, I don't think I did break it. I might have broken it a little bit, but it should still work for the most part, but it's still in the game, but it's no longer being used. So if you really want the tiling window manager, it's still in the code, it's still there. It's not being used anymore, but it's been hidden in favor of this. This is the new desktop environment. So the status bar is basically identical. It looks pretty much the exact same. There are still things I need to add to it. I need to add the menu, which is now going to make a lot more sense having a menu here. And I need to add the notification tray, which is not there yet, but that was a thing that I decided to add with the floating window manager in terms of the plan, because we need some way to display system-wide notifications. If you get a new chat message, or a new social media post, or you're wanted by the police, I would ideally like that information to be visible to the player, so a notification tray is a way to do that. So that's going to be something I add eventually, but other than that, the status bar is the same. I've also added the terminal itself as a custom tool. Which is something that I had to do. I had to, because in the old interface, the terminal was its own dedicated panel, and you could only have one because I've never implemented tabbed terminals or the ability to create a terminal. But of course, since there's no dedicated interface for it anymore, there's no tiling window manager, there's no terminal panel, I still needed a way to access the terminal, so what I did was I created a tool window for it. So custom tools, which is what we implemented in the last dev stream, are really just windows now. That's what they are. And the terminal is now one of them. So I haven't given it an icon yet, but I know that it's the third icon right here. If we click on that, you can see that we get a little terminal button here. Now this is a taskbar button. You could probably guess that, given that it appeared alongside the window. But taskbar buttons are kind of buggy right now. I mean, they work. Functionally, they work, but they need to be art passed, and they're not perfect yet. but they are there. They needed to be there relatively early on, so this is what we have so far. And the reason they're red is that I can tell it apart from the background of the status panel. It hasn't been art passed yet, deal with it. But anyway, this is the actual terminal window in itself, and as you can see, this has been art passed. So it looks completely different from what the old interface looked like. The old interface did have their little transparency, but the terminal itself wasn't transparent, and it didn't look this cool. I think this looks really cool in my opinion. But yeah, this is the terminal. Aesthetically it's different, but functionality-wise, it's the same as it always was. So if I run NeoFetch, it's gonna work. However, you can open another terminal with xterm. That's the command. That opens another terminal. So you now can have multiple terminals. And as you can see, Unity is doing a great job of rendering these on top of each other despite the transparency, which is something that I'm really grateful for. Thundershock Engine would never have handled this. Anyway, so now that we have multiple windows open, I can show you some of the window management code, but I will warn you, it is very broken. So the first thing that we can do is maximize. You can see those buttons. There's a minimize, a maximize, and a close button. They're there, and they do work. The maximize button, you click it, and it's straightforward. You end up maximizing the window. That's what that does. I wanted to get that working as soon as I could. However, you will notice that the other terminal window we opened, this one, it's in the foreground, despite me having maximized the other window. The other window didn't go into the foreground. That's a bug with the window management, and that's something that I need to look into. Effectively, what I need to do is I need to see when the mouse clicks on a window, anywhere in the window, even if what I'm clicking on isn't interactive with the mouse. And I need to capture that event, find out which window the mouse is hovering over, and based on that, move that window to the front of the window layer, and that'll fix that issue. But for now, this is a bug. It sucks, but it is what it is. You can also drag windows, which works flawlessly. It does scale the drag distance based on the game's user interface scale, so as I drag this around, it actually does take into account the scale of the UI, and it's not gonna do the weird Thundershock Engine thing or Unreal Engine user interface thing back when I was working on PeaceNet, where the mouse cursor would suddenly drift behind the window, or it would become like I can drag this around as fast as I want and it will keep the mouse in place with the window. It doesn't have that bug where the mouse escapes the bounds and suddenly you can't drag the window around anymore, so that's working pretty perfectly. You cannot double click the window title bar to maximize the window yet though. And I don't know if I will implement that. I might, but I'm not sure. Anyway, that's maximizing, that's dragging, they work. The only thing that really doesn't work with the terminal specifically is the exit command. There is no exit command. So you cannot close a terminal using the exit command like you do it, or like you would in Windows or Linux or macOS. That's not something you can do yet. That's just a holdover from the old UI where you couldn't exit the terminal at all because it was a dedicated panel that you needed to have open in order to play the game. Much of the game is still played through the terminal, and that's not going to change. It's just that you will be able to have multiple terminals, so you need a way to exit them. That is to say, however, that there is still a way to exit out of a terminal, albeit it won't notify the shell system that you've exited the terminal yet. I have to fix that. That is to click the close button, like any other normal soul would. And that kills the window. It's gone, it's been deallocated from memory. There's gonna be an error probably if I try to do anything. No, actually, surprisingly not. No errors. I thought there would have been some sort of error with the shell system where once the window got destroyed, the shell would try to access the now destroyed console control to write to it and to read from it, but I guess not. So that's handy. But yeah, you can have multiple terminals, and that's great. Another issue I had with window management in Socially Distant is, first of all, you can drag and maximize the window, which shouldn't happen. This shouldn't be a thing you can do. I mean, in Windows and KDE and all those other floating desktop environments, you can, but what it'll do is it'll unmaximize the window and then you drag it as a normal window. That's how it should behave. But in Socially Distant, that is not a thing you can do, and so you shouldn't be able to drag the window around while it's maximized. That's bug. But when you unmaximize the window, it for some reason goes to this part of the screen instead of restoring to where it should have been. Like, I'll leave this window here, and you know where it is on screen. Like keep note of where it is. And I'll hit the maximize button. I'll hit the maximize button. There we go. And it maximizes. Great. And then I'll unmaximize. And it's okay. I stand corrected. I must have been subconsciously moving windows around when I was testing this, and then not remembering where I put them. It is in the same spot that it was before I maximized. Okay, ignore me. Anyway, what was I gonna get at? Let's see, what else is there? Another weird oddity of the Windows system is minimizing. Minimizing does kind of break it a bit. See, I've minimized that terminal, and I can click on the panel button to bring it back. And it does come back, and I can click on the panel button again to toggle the minimize. However, it does break if I maximize the window and then I click on the panel button. It minimizes the window. That might be a weird quirk, like the type of situation where I say it's not a bug, it's a feature, but technically that is a bug. So, yeah. Clicking on a panel button or a taskbar button generally shouldn't stop the window from being maximized. Oh well, anyway. But yeah, if I click on it, it'll restore down, and then it will become, or it'll minimize again when I click it. Anyway, now let's open another window up. I'm gonna run the hello command, which opens up a little hello world test tool. This is what I implemented during the stream. And this is that same window, and now we have multiple windows on screen. And you can see as I drag these around, they do in fact move between the foreground and the background. So that is something that it does do. It does support that. It's just that it doesn't do it reliably yet. And also this looks really unreadable when you hover text over text like that. I cannot wait till we get frosted glass in the game, because that'll solve this issue completely by blurring everything in the background. But we haven't gotten that far yet. But another weird quirk is, okay, so we have the terminal in focus right now, and I'm going to click the Hello World taskbar button. It brings it into focus. That works perfectly. And then the terminal will do the same. Now it's in focus, works perfectly. Let's maximize one of them, because I actually haven't tested this. I know that when you click on a window while it's maximized, it will restore it. And then, okay, so this works, the window is in the foreground. Great. What happens if I click on the terminal? Okay, so it becomes in focus, that's good. Okay, so that isn't a quirk, that is actually functioning normally how it should, so that's good. Alright, now, one final quirk is, let's click the little socially distant pandemic icon. This is going to open another logo test program, and as you can see, the window is like 3 miles longer than the actual window contents. I don't know why that is, but that is definitely a bug. That's not how it should look. It should fit the contents of the window, but it doesn't, and I don't know. I'm lost in terms of that. Oh well. Anyway, other than that, the game is basically the same as it was the last dev update. If I do nmap trixelcreative.com, it does nmap on trixelcreative.com. If I ping trixelcreative.com, it pings trixelcreative.com 32 times. It works perfectly. Nothing's changed about the command system, other than the fact that you can run custom tools now and that everything is in a window. Now, that being said, I have done a few new things with the floating window manager, specifically in the keyboard department. In Windows 10, you do have hotkeys you can use to manipulate your windows. I can do this. I can do that. Hello, OBS. I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. I can do all of this stuff with my window. You can do all that in Socially Distant. Oh, okay, you can't do all of that in Socially Distant, but you can do a fair few of these things in Socially Distant. So if I click on the terminal and hit Alt down, it's going to restore the window. Or no, it's going to minimize the window. Never mind. It is a bit awkward right now because of how the keybinds are implemented, and that terminal's never coming back. That's good to know. Oh wait, yes it is. Alright, so it's unminimized right now. It's normal. It's got focus. Let's press Alt up. And it maximizes. Alt down, and it minimizes. Alt up when there's no window in focus does absolutely nothing. There's a weird quirk though, because the terminal is still in focus, and it is in focus. Excuse me, long day. Anyway, it's in focus because it is the last child in the scene hierarchy, and that is how the game determines the focused window. And the window keybinds all go to that last in-focused child. However, the terminal is minimized right now, so it is actually an inactive game object. So the event isn't going to it. And that is how it should be, except that it should not be it should not be treated as the last child if it's inactive, so that's a bug I have to fix. However, if I bring the terminal back to life, it does fix itself, and I can maximize and restore all I want. Great. And if I move it and then move this window into focus by dragging on it, suddenly those window keybinds affect this window instead of the terminal, which is ideal. So yeah, that's the window keybinds. Also, Alt-Q quits the active window, but it's really annoying because Windows 11 makes that stupid noise every time you press an Alt key with one of those keybinds. Q, T, and Enter all do that, and it's really annoying. I don't know why Windows beeps at you when you do that, but it does, and I hate Windows so much sometimes, and this is one of them. Also, this terminal is like extremely borked until you actually like interact with it. That's strange. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Bring the terminal back, buddy. Come on, come back. It is definitely buggy. What? That was strange. Yeah, the terminal is definitely buggy. It needs to respond to window resize events and invalidate the rendering of it, and then once it does that, it'll be fine, but we haven't gotten that far yet. Again, I only did this today, and, yeah. Anyway, so, Alt-Q quits a window. Except it makes that stupid noise. It's fine, whatever. I think what's going on is Unity is also trying to handle that event, and you saw Alt-Window, or Alt-W open the window menu, which wouldn't happen in the main game, so I think this will only happen in the editor, so that's fine. But Alt-T brings up a terminal. Again, it makes that stupid noise. Okay, maybe maximizing is a little smashed right now. That's fine. So we'll Alt-Q that. So yeah, Alt-Q quits a window, Alt-T opens a terminal, Alt-Up maximizes or restores depending on what the window is, and then Alt-Down minimizes. And then Escape will open the menu, I think, because I obviously can't use the meta key because it'll open the Windows Start menu or the KDE launcher or whatever your system's using. Now why Alt? It's because I don't want to conflict with other operating system commands. Control Q on some Linux desktops will force quit the application. Not ideal. macOS, Command Q, I believe, will force quit the application. Not ideal. And then Windows, I have no idea what Control Q does. Okay, absolutely nothing. Okay. But Control T on Windows, I think, does something. No, it doesn't. Alright, fine, cool. I should have known that because ShiftOS uses Control T. But Control Up. Control Down. Okay, they don't do it. Thanks, Microsoft, but I'm sure they do things on other operating systems, so Alt ensures that I don't conflict with those. Anyway, that's gonna do it for this dev update. As always, I've been Michael. I hope you learned something. The next dev stream I make will be on the hacking system. Trust me, we will get that done. I know exactly how the hacking system is gonna work, how it's gonna... I mean, it might not be very Hollywood hackery, but it'll at least be functional, and I know how it's gonna work. But anyway, I've been Michael. As always, hope you learned something. Can't wait to see you on the dev stream, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.